I'm looking at the official Nvidia cooler for a Titan V. And I've got to say, I found a shocking lack of quality control in the production of this heatsink. Okay, the backstory to this is that my mate just bought this Titan V for an astonishingly high price, and it came fitted already with an EK water block, which looks like a very solid piece of engineering. And the guy who sold it said, yeah, you really need a water block in order to keep suitably low temperatures for continuous use. But having spent so much money on this, he didn't really have the spare to spend on the water cooling system. So he asked me to replace the water block with the original air cooler that was supplied with it. So I said, yeah, no problem. A job you'd normally expect to be an hour or so. However, when I had a look at the base of the central block, I was really shocked to find how lumpy it was. I mean, you didn't even need to look at it to get the light at the right angle to see it was not flat. And if you ran your finger over it, you could feel the lumps and bumps, quite significantly. There were peaks and valleys, basically. And I was really shocked because I just recently watched a video where Jay-Z 2 Cents said, a critical element of making a heatsink effective is having the base plate of it flat. It doesn't have to be super smooth, but it has to be flat. So this really shocked me. So this has taken a couple of days to find a way to smooth it. Now the problem is that you can't use the time-honoured method of taping a piece of sandpaper to the desk and then rubbing it over it, because if you look here, what you can see, you've got these 4 posts at the corners, and these stand proud of the block itself. So that knocks that on the head. So I then took to using a piece of sandpaper wrapped around a laptop power supply, and that has been quite effective, but it's very, very slow and hard work. So I ended up buying a mouse, which I've never had one of these before, which is an orbital sander. So basically it vibrates, I'm doing it exaggerated here, it vibrates in this sort of motion like that. And that was the thing that's slowly cut through. But even this wasn't good, because I was thinking, well, the pointed end, I'll be able to cover it. But in fact, it only covers about a quarter of the block. So what I ended up doing, and obviously you could do that from all 4 corners, but it's not really flat. So what I've ended up doing is using the heel of this and doing it at this sort of angle like this, and going along backwards and forwards a few times, and doing this from each direction so that we get fairly even coverage. And I have to say, after a couple of evenings of having goes at this, I've now got to the bottom of the deepest valley on this, and it's now, feels not just smooth, but flat. It actually feels flat. It's not absolutely completely perfect, and ideally I would like to machine this really, but I don't have a CNC milling machine. But I have had my eye on one on eBay actually. So it's now in a suitable condition for assembling and putting back on the Titan V. But I think we need to go back to the fact that this was a flagship product at one point, and it's shocking how uneven the heatsink was. And this raises the question of what might other Nvidia graphics cards heatsinks be like. Could they be just as bad? Was this a one-off? We don't know. So I've written a letter to Nvidia, and I'll let you know at some point if I get a response. But in the meantime, if you've either got an existing Nvidia graphics card that's still got the original heatsink on it, or if you buy one that's got an original Nvidia heatsink on it, it may be worth taking it off and having a look to see if it is sufficiently flat. And if it isn't, then a bit of attention could make all the difference to your GPU temperatures. In the best case scenario, it might actually avoid the need to actually spend huge amounts of money on a water cooling system. So worth looking at.